All right, there we go. We are live. So, Rob, what have you been up to out there, dude?
Well, avoiding the police on my way to my office, being California is now completely shut down, and I'm not sure if doing a live stream to answer our fans' questions is considered essential work or not. But here I am.
Oh, it's absolutely essential.
All about
Come
having
on.
fun right now.
Nah, we got to do something, man. It's being cooped up is driving me nuts. How about you, Kevin? What have you been up to?
Working on some enclosures for myself for my personal projects, catching up on some of those, just trying to keep my mind busy while I'm cooped up in the house too.
Right? No doubt about that. No doubt.
Right?
Yeah, I'm doing the same. It's been kind of crazy. As you can see, it's actually a pretty nice day here, so I might as well do this outside instead of being inside. The luxuries of the South Florida lifestyle, right?
Right.
I see Matt Morgenthal. Who's that guy? He's in the chat there. Who else we got in there? We got Richard. Hey, Richard. Thanks for supporting Rob. Maybe Kevin and I can help you out too. Who knows?
He's just trying to limit my Patriot Tom Brady Deflategate jokes the next time we're at College Fest.
No doubt, no doubt. Mike's telling me I need more light, so I can lean back here if you'd like. So it's just a little warm. I don't know where you guys are at, but it's about 87 degrees and sunny down here in South Florida. So can't go to the beach, but if I had anything else I needed to do, I'm very well prepared for such matters.
Anyone want to come help me install some VXIs? I got plenty of work. I'm in, Matt
That's
Professor.
awesome. Good to hear. Mad Professor Glenn Savage in the house. I saw you post up there earlier. You're doing an install for VXI, or something like that. We love seeing that. Thank you for that. Really, we definitely appreciate it. SP is stuck at work, and this makes for a nice break. That's kind of what we were thinking too. We're sort of stuck at work in a way as well. So. We did see a bunch of questions pop up. We're just going to get to those in a little bit. Let's see what else. Arthur versus. What's up, guys? What's happening? Who else we got? Jose's in here. Ron White in the house. He's bored
Ron,
too.
I hope this makes your boring afternoon go a little faster, Ron.
No doubt. No doubt. Traffic Jams Motorsports watching. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. Hope you guys are hanging in there. So Jeff is watching from home because they had to shut down too. Hey, we're there for you, man. We definitely hear you. Some questions about C7 stuff, some stealth box stuff. These are good, guys. We're liking it. We're liking it. Good stuff. Good stuff. First question. Matt says, Steve, can I come over for dinner? If you're buying, you can come over anytime you'd like. So, we've been doing our best to, get some takeout and stuff from the local restaurants and whatnot, and doing our part to try to help the small businesses out. We know you guys are suffering, and we'll be there for you. We definitely feel it. You guys are our lifeblood, so we'll be doing whatever we can to help you out when this is all on the other side. So just stay healthy, please. And if you don't already have your supplies, just make sure you're ready as we are.
Yeah, I made sure I loaded up on beer from my local breweries.
Hey, priorities, right?
Fortunately for me, they're all doing curbside pickup. So I could just go and pick up my growler.
That's perfect. That's awesome.
Barrel-aged stouts and IPAs and get through this.
Glenn's looking for an optical light amplifier to get more gain. Well, the truth is we already have that. See, JL Audio does sell our own optical cables, and you get 3 dB more output when you use those because our light is brighter. I saw something about the breweries are changing some of their production to help out some of this stuff, which I thought was really cool. All right, let's go through. Let's see what kind of questions we got. The first one I saw was from Michael. He was asking about C5 6x9 or a wideband 3-inch. If you had any idea what kind of support you had for a wideband 3-inch, it's definitely a topic we've talked a lot about at JL Audio. I know the 3 guys you're chatting with right now. We're definitely down for such an idea. We love that. Don't know if it'd be a C5 or maybe a different number, but it is something we've talked about. So I won't say when. I just will say the conversations have begun. So, yep, Glenn's all over that too, no doubt about it. As far as a 6x9, you know, the crazy thing is we've toyed around with high-end 6x9s, and every time we've launched them, nobody bought them. So we're a little gun-shy to do that again, you know. Again, we know the applications are there, so those conversations don't end. Just a matter of when we can actually, you know, bring something out to you guys. So thank you for that good question, Michael. Hopefully we covered at least part of it for you.
I think if there's one thing that would help 6x9s coming out in a C5, C3 line is more vehicles are coming with 6x9s now. Exactly. So hopefully that'll, you know, help you guys out maybe in the future.
Yeah, that definitely drives it. You know?
That is true, but think about the labor dollars of making all those nice plastic or ABS adapters that they're doing these days.
That's a good point. No, I definitely I hear where he's coming from. If we could make it easier for these guys to get good stuff going in their car, you know, that'd be an awesome thing. So, you know, it's crazy. We have all these different engineers on staff, and we don't always have enough time in a day to get to all the projects that we really want to do. And this is definitely one that we've talked about. So, you know, who knows? We'll see what comes of it. What else do we got? So there's Michael's 312W7s and a lowrider. Been bumping for 10 years now. Never had an issue. That's good to hear. That's really good to hear. VX.
It's also a testament to a proper installation. If your stuff's installed right.
And a responsible listener, so credit to that too.
Yes.
You must listen to classical music, maybe AM talk radio.
You know, he's a Chevy lowrider, Rob, but I don't think that's what he's listening to.
He's a user, not an abuser.
No doubt.
No stealth boxes for newer VWs like the GTR 2015 and newer. From Brian Viper there.
Brian Viper. Let me see that one. I'm scrolling. Brian Viper, no stealth box for the VWs. Yeah, well, you know, some of the cars, they seem like great options, but most of the stealth boxes are more application-driven, where it's really hard to do something in a typical sedan or, you know, hatchback. It's somewhat easier to do a standard box. Love the idea of doing a stealth box with them, but you know, sometimes it's just, you know, who's going to buy it? You know, you would, I know.
That hatchback's a great application for a nice, you know, big ported, you know, wedge box or something.
Yeah, no doubt. All right, let's look what else we got in there, guys.
Here's a good one from Matt B. asking about home speaker cabinet design recommendations. He wants to use C5 or C7 speakers in a room. I would say definitely reach out to our technical support team. The guys are really good. Carlos, Eric, and Lee, whether it's designing subwoofer enclosures for your vehicle, they can also help give you parameters and design regular loudspeaker enclosures for your home audio or desktop applications. So definitely reach out to our tech support team. I'm sure they can help you come up with something that'll sound great.
Right on. So, Rob, why don't you tell them a little bit about the demo that we did for the C7 when we launched it in Vegas?
Oh, man, that one was mind-blowingly good. So, yeah, when we did our C7 launch in Vegas, we pretty much had a pretty cool setup where we had custom cabinets designed by our engineering team and built by the R&D team. Beautiful, just like gloss black paint, brushed aluminum finish. I'm sure you guys have probably seen them throughout the years that we've posted them from time to time. But it was just a stunning demo. What was cool about it was it was not like this extravagant setup. We pretty much had a Oppo digital media player playing some FLAC files into a Tweak D8, into some XD600/6 amplifiers, and then we had two of our Fathom W7 based home subwoofers. And what was crazy about how it if you think about it, Tweak and XD are great products, but it's not like they're these $20,000 home amps and all this crazy stuff you see on the home side. And an editor from one of the stereo magazines,
Don't say which one.
the audiophile magazines, had come to listen to the C7s after listening to our new in-wall speakers, and said that setup sounded better than some of the $25,000 speakers he had heard at the high-end home audio area earlier in the day. And for me, that was a testament to two things. One, the speakers are great, but also, we weren't using high-res audio. We were using regular 24 or 48, just like you would in the car, or just a basic home setup. And for him to say that it sounded that good was a testament to the speakers, but also, if you use DSP properly and tune a room or the car, it's a game changer. It doesn't matter if you're, using digital input or analog input. Adjusting to optimize based off of the environment makes a huge, huge difference. So it was a really cool demo. For me, it was really cool watching Manville Smith kind of smile during it, because those of you that know Manville, he doesn't smile a lot. So I remember asking him, what's up? And he was listening to, I'm sure it was a Dire Straits song, because he said it was like a reference track for him. And he was saying he was hearing depth in the staging that he had never heard before. And that was it was really cool to see.
No doubt. That was a fun demo. I remember doing that. I had a complaint about it, as it was really only one seat. So.
Yeah. It sounded good everywhere, but the sweet spot was unbelievable.
No doubt. But it was definitely a lot of fun. So I saw someone ask, appropriately with the name Subwoofer King, for us to make an 18-inch subwoofer. So did you know that we have made 18s before? So we had some monster speakers a long time ago, but again, sales. Guys, we often kid around that the best way that we can improve sales is to discontinue a product, because suddenly everybody comes out of the woodwork and wants to buy it.
Right.
So
the 8-inch mid-bass drive.
Yeah, exactly. The ZR800. That's a good example of it. And so yeah, the 18 is definitely a cool one. I get you. I feel you. Obviously, output is king for the man named Subwoofer King. So obviously, we guide you towards one of the 13s or something like that. Those are fun. 13W3 is one of my favorites for higher output applications. Whenever I can get onto those. What else did I see in here?
So Robert asked, would you send 600 watts to a single 13 TW5 or dual 10 TW3s? Which configuration would give you more output, corded or sealed? This is a great question for us three.
Yeah, no doubt, right? So I think Eric Cole's online. Manville Smith is asking, can Kevin share beard grooming tips?
I can. Lots of combing, some water, a little bit of, trimming here and there, probably once every other day trim, and you're good. Lots of brushing, though.
So back to Robert's question. I'm sure that the guys in tech can give you the breakdown about the output advantages. Just my knee jerk is I like a pair of 10 TW3s in those applications. Send a good amount of power to each one of them. Normally I like those in the sealed box. I think a ported one could work for you. But let Eric and Lee and Carlos and the guys in tech jump in on that at some point and give you some specifics. If you have some dimensions that you need to work within, that could help them out quite a bit too.
Yeah. I run two 10 DW3s in my Acura on a VX1000/1i, and they're just great sounding subs. You have great output. I kind of look at them as, W3 V3s, maybe a little more output and performance, but half the size and a very compact enclosure. So they sound great, and what I like about them is the flexibility. You can run sealed, you can run ported, and like Steve said, reach out to the guys in tech with your dimensions you have to work with, and they can help design an enclosure and provide a cut sheet and all that cool stuff to make life a lot easier for you.
Cool. Good stuff. Good feedback on that, Rob.
And see, I'm the other way on that one, Rob. I just like the sound and the tonality of the 13 TW5. It just has that really just rich, smooth sound to it. I'm sure you can get more output out of a ported pair of 10s, but that sound out of that TW5 is just hard to replicate.
Now, TW5s are awesome. I just didn't have room in my car.
The truth comes out. So, Lynn Sweeney's in the house. Hi, Lynn. How you doing? Good to see you here.
Glenn Savage says he has glorious whiskers. We might need a beard off between Kevin and Glenn.
A beard off. Cool. Carlos is in here, huh? Ooh, Michael's asking about a Tesla Model S stealth box. We need long-term testing on that. If you don't mind lending it to me for a couple of months.
We need to do cold weather testing on it too, so I'll need it up here in Pittsburgh too.
Obviously, you have some fans of the car here, Michael. We've talked a little bit about the Teslas in general. Again, some of the stealth box development, the return on it is a little bit better when we have the SUVs and stuff. And we do have access to one Tesla, just not the Model S right now. Make a case for it, though. Get in touch with us offline here, and let's see if we can make a case. If not, I know that JL Tech Eric there will definitely help you with a design that could flush in and make it look really good. Carlos is here too, eh, Carlos?
Mike said Manville Smith, salesperson of the month at Speaker Warehouse.
Of the month? What month was that? Matt's not happy about the beard talk, Kevin. He's
baby face Matt.
You got the lush one going there, huh? All right, so let's 18W6 back in the day. Yeah, someone remembers. Someone wants to pimp out their boat, wants to advertise JL Audio. Constantly at the sandbar in Miami. You know what? I've never gotten an invite to that sandbar, so I don't know if I can help you out. 15's in the work, maybe a W6 15. We used to have a 15 W6 and that 18 we just spoke about. Those things were pretty darn impressive. We actually had some weird, odd issues with it. I don't know if Manville will remember it, but we were playing around with one of the 18s, I think it was, that we had a small sealed box, and it was an unbelievably small sealed box for that 18 back then. And we had, I don't know what kind of power, it was a couple hundred, maybe more than that, a couple of hundred watts of power onto it. And we were playing, I remember it was a Thomas Dolby track, the Aliens Ate My Buick thing. It was it an Airhead? She's an Airhead track, I think. And when the bass line kicked in, you could see the enclosure just like migrating across the floor. And you got to believe that this 18 was not exactly a lightweight. The thing weighed a ton, and then there was a box around it on top of that. So to have that kind of energy to just like walk across the floor was pretty crazy. And I think if I remember right, Manville even stood on the box and it was moving him. Which, not saying anything about Manville, is no small accomplishment. That was fun.
CR Bill said he had 3 15W6s and a 94 Cavalier 20 years ago. I bet you that thing tore your face off.
No doubt. No doubt about it. Yeah. That's a lot of fun, no doubt. I like the idea of multiple subs on less power when we can do it. Maybe I'm biased because I like the reliability of it, but I still remember back in those old days that we're talking about when you had like those 3 W6s wired off at like 600 or even 1,000 watts. You're barely tickling them in terms of power, but there was definitely no lack of output. It definitely got the job done. But then everything changed. Everyone wanted like 2,000 watts on a single woofer. And the warranty guys hated it because they stayed busy, but I don't know. Let's go back to the old of more speakers, less amps.
Right.
So back in the days when you guys were all at Speaker Warehouse, Steve,
yeah.
When a customer came in wanting audio upgrades, did you guys have like a go-to system, or was it more just, did you do the qualifying them, find out what they were looking for, and just kind of put in what the budget allowed? Like, how did you guys, because you guys designed some kick-ass, legendary systems back then, so what was your approach when you were dealing with customers?
Well, I came in a little late. I got to give credit to the guys that were there well ahead of me when they did a lot of the show cars that made Speaker Warehouse famous and really helped put JL on the map. So I'm only 30 years in, but I learned from
yourself.
I learned from Manville how to use the reference manual. And the reference manual is one of the best technical and sales tools that I've ever worked with. And for those that don't remember, the reference manual is basically, we called it the Bible in a way, because every speaker that we made at the time was in there, and when a customer came in, we would qualify them by asking the usual questions, and then we'd go out to the car, and we'd measure up how much airspace that we could negotiate for. That's always what it was. It was a negotiation for airspace. And we wouldn't say anything out of the car what we could do or what we couldn't do. It was more about let's take a look and see what's possible. So we get these dimensions, we go in, and in front of the customer, we'd actually enter in the magic dimensions and come up with an airspace and go to that page in the reference manual. Say, well, you got 2 cubic feet. A really good combination would be these 2 12s, or whatever the numbers would be. And we kind of pointed out, and the book helped. If they were more focused on SPL or sound quality, it gave us guidance onto one or the other. And then we just had to use good system design knowledge and put the appropriate front speakers in with the right amount of power, and then of course rely on a really good installer to make the magic happen. That's what I did. And very often I remember there was one customer, this guy named Anthony. He came in and he had of course a Honda Civic. Yes, Eric, I'm looking at you. He came in with a Honda Civic, and he wanted 15s, of course, because everybody in the Honda Civic back then wanted 15s. And I went through the reference manual, and I told him that the best suggestion for him would be 3 8s. And he looked at me like I had 2 heads, and it was the funniest thing in the world. I said, but we'll do it your way. And I wound up with 4 15s in isobaric groups, which was a thing back then. And the 4 15s actually popped the rivets in the roof. It broke from the support bars. And of course, that made him happy as ever, right? That was something he could tell stories about for the longest time. But when he came down off of the high of having all that bass, he said, well, what would the 3 8 sound like? So we actually redid the back end for him, and we did 3 8 W6s on a 600-watt amplifier. I don't want to tell you he had more bass, but it definitely sounded better. It was deeper and cleaner, and it was, he started winning shows after that. And, he got the bug of the sound quality thing. So sorry to go on a rant there, just making me reminisce.
I always love hearing those stories.
Here's a good question that popped up from GeoCow. How do you daisy chain the VXI with an older JL amplifier?
Daisy chain VXI with an older JL amp?
Yeah, which makes it really simple. The nice thing is with the VXI amplifiers, they have full DSP on the outputs of the amplifier, so you can just go RCA out to your older JL amplifier, and you're able to do full tuning in our tune software on that preamp output, which is going to directly feed into the input of your older amplifier. So not only are you integrating them in together, but you're actually giving your older amplifier DSP capabilities.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I think someone even jumped in and shared that, so whoever that was a good thing. You're right. I see something here from Ron. Ron's asking about 2 M3 10s in a boat, and he's got 1005 on it. He wants to know if he's overpowering them. I don't think you're overpowered. I think you'd be pretty good. I mean, the guys in tech will yell at me if I'm wrong on that, but I think if you're at least somewhat responsible with the volume control there, you should be all right. Make sure you go through
as long as your levels are set properly and you're not clipping the outputs.
Yeah, I think you'd be all right.
Too bad. If you're not clipping, you're not trying, right?
Right?
I'm with you there. So Ori's wondering what the Jedi trainer thing's all about. Well, I guess Ori's paying attention. He caught that.
Yes, Kevin and I are the young Padawans.
Manville's looking for the finger emoji. Thank you, boss.
So since Steve kind of dated himself, Kevin, what got you into car audio?
Oh, man. I enjoy vehicles in general. I'm a big motorhead for those of you guys that know me. I'm a big truck guy. I've built a few vehicles in my time. My first one you can actually see in the picture behind me there. It goes along with it. If you're going to customize a vehicle, you got to customize everything, right? And the stereo is a big part of that, customization. So that's how I got into it. I won't tell you what year I got into it, but
Afraid of dating yourself, huh?
He really does try to make himself sound younger than he really is.
I'm young. I don't know what to tell you. So.
I don't know, Kevin. There's a little salt and pepper going on there.
I actually just fermented Greg just to throw everybody off.
Yeah, I've been doing the same thing.
But I've been around for a few years.
No doubt. How about you, Rob? Tell us your story.
Well, I've been officially in the car audio industry for 15 years now. But growing up, my dad was in the business. He started with Alan Ed's Auto Sound here in Southern California in 92 or 93, I think. So as a kid, I would go to his shop and hang out on the weekends or during the summer and listen to all the speakers and subwoofers on his demo boards and hang out with the installers in the bay, which you immediately realized probably wasn't the smartest thing. I would start asking for all the fun tools and off-road vehicles that they were driving, and started using some of the language they were using. So he was like, yeah, you can't hang out with the installers anymore. You got to stay up front with the sales guys. But I would hang out in the store. He had a 69 Camaro with a pretty kick-ass system. I remember we had a couple versions of it. One was all Sony, the big old silver Sony amps.
Oh, wow.
And a copper chassis source unit and Boston acoustic speakers, and we would just rock out, and that was his everyday driver. So everywhere we went, we were just rocking out, and so I always grew up with it. Never thought I would make a career out of it. And then at 21, my fourth year of community college, because I really didn't know what the heck I was doing, he came in my room one day and said, we have to have a talk. I said, what do you mean? My room's clean. I'm not coming home at 5 in the morning anymore, because that's how those talks were when I was 21. And he said, no, we have a chance to take over an Alan Ed's Auto Sound location. Do you want to do it? So I literally went from being a restaurant server with no retail experience, no real car audio experience. Biggest regret now, like when my first car was a 69 Dodge Dart, so of course we put a sound system in it, and I was annoyed that I had to help them put it in. I wanted it, but I didn't want to. I wanted nothing to do with the install, which I regret now, being this is what I do for a living. And so I literally jumped in overnight, from restaurant server to running a car stereo shop and having to learn sales, managing people, managing installers, customer relations, all of that stuff on the fly. So I think it's cool now that, I've been with JLAudio for 5 years as a trainer, and I worked for another company prior to that as a trainer. So for me, it's cool to be able to pass. I wouldn't be where I'm at right now if it wasn't for the trainers at other companies, reps, that helped me out throughout the year. So I love that I can kind of, pay it forward to the next generation, current generation of our industry and fans of car audio. So I think it's pretty cool to be in the position we're in to help everyone out. And, really, it's a fun industry. This isn't a need. It's a want. It's
right,
having fun. And I think it's pretty cool. We can help everyone, even in times like this, enjoy their music or, just have a good time for an hour or two.
Awesome. Great story, Rob. Hey, Glenn, take care. Thanks for watching, buddy. All right, so we've got a couple other questions that popped up in there. Oh, by the way, it looks like Ron was using the 9-step tuning method to set his amps on that Marine subsystem, so he should be all right.
Yeah, that 9-step video's got a very talented, good-looking trainer in it.
What did we redo it or something? Dylan still has the reference manual, yeah. So I think Manville has one of the original ones, the light blue one. I think those are rare. I think I may have one hiding. There's a green one, and of course the black one. The black one that pushed Andy over the edge.
The black one. He busted it out a couple weeks ago when I was over.
Yeah. Andy pretty much put the kibosh on the reference manual after the black one. We killed a bunch of trees on that one, and we don't want to do that anymore.
Manville says it's a clay tablet.
Yeah, no doubt. So what else we got? I saw a couple of things in there.
M712 in black.
M712 in black. How embarrassing. I can't remember what grill options we had. Yeah, that's what I thought. We did have something, right?
Yeah, there's the titanium gun metal sport grills for that. No classic. Classic's white only.
Right.
If you want a black, the nice thing is that the grills are removable, so you can get it custom coated yourself if you wanted to.
Yeah.
I don't think we've mentioned anything about other options yet, but maybe watch this space. Something might come out good in the future. So. What else we got? We got Steve Moss asking, why is our kit so good? Because of guys like you, Steve. Thanks for watching over there in the UK. And then, oddly enough, Orlando's asking, why are they so expensive? Go see what Steve said above, right? No, is Orlando's question about C7 so expensive? Well, the materials obviously add some expense, and we're dealing with some really good materials, and the voice coils and the magnets and the metal parts are very, very high quality, and they are built by our team in Florida. The mid-range and the mid-bass driver, and oh, look at you! You got one right there, Kevin.
I do.
So, it's it's all part of it, I guess. Really, it's I know they're not cheap. It's very difficult for a lot of us to afford some of the stuff that we're making. Definitely feel for you there. One thing that I think is often misunderstood is you don't have to go to C7 to get good quality. I got the Mazda over here. That's got C3 in it, and that thing sounds fantastic. For the longest time, I loved the C5 product, and obviously it's a step up in terms of price over the C3, but it's not quite to the C7 level in terms of expense. C7 is definitely a cut above. Anytime you see a 7 in the model name, there's something special going on in there, and it just makes it really awesome, in our opinion, anyway. So.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, Steve. I mean, especially like when you work with VXI amplifiers don't mean you only need to run C7. I think he left the chat, but Glenn Savage is actually one of our dealers in Southeast Georgia, and their hot setup is a VXI 5-channel amplifier on C2 or C3 speakers, and they run the Mac kit, which means you're not using the little passive crossovers in the box. And those systems sound phenomenal. So, if you don't have money for C7s, if you use DSP, you can take a great sounding speaker like a C2, C3, go active, and make it sound even better, and really get everything out of your investment. So, I love our whole speaker family. I think there's a very nice balanced, neutral sound. C7s are definitely going to be a next level product, but you can still make those the lower level products, go to the next level if you're able to put in a tweak or a VXI type product and adjust them to the vehicle that you're going to be listening to, or even just the location that you're going to be sitting in the car.
Right on.
My car, everything's dialed in for my driver's seat because my wife doesn't know any better, so why should it sound good for her?
Yeah.
So, that's a nice thing.
Hopefully she's not watching.
She knows. She listened to my car and she's like, I don't get it. It sounds a little crisper. And I was like, oh my goodness. I'm going to pull over and you can leave the vehicle.
Nice.
We did not call C7s crisp.
So I made a passenger side tune on mine, and I clicked it over once, and Sarah was like, okay, I get it now. Like, the light bulb clicked on. Like, when I had it to mine, and, she was just kind of hearing that speaker that was closer to her at that point in time, it was like, this is good. It can get loud, but what's really special about it? And then hit that passenger side preset, and the light bulb clicks on, and it really made a difference for sure.
No doubt. So I have a sort of related story, kind of undoes a little bit of what we were just talking about, but my son, he's got the C3s over here in the Mazda, so it's a pretty basic system, 1005, with C3s in the doors, bridged 4 channels into 2 channels, so maybe a little bit too much power, but, I know a guy, so. And then the 600 watts is running a special subwoofer. We won't say anything about that. And he listens to what you would expect him to listen to. He's into some of the more popular rap music and whatnot, and he pounds. He's just a hammerhead on it. We always know about 15 minutes before he gets to the house, right? He got into the Jeep here, and I got C7 in the Jeep with a couple of 10s, and I got an 808 running the freeway C7 up front, and then I got the 1000, the VX1000 running the subs. And he listened to his music, and he came out, and he says, how do I get my car to sound like yours? I said, why? He's like, I heard stuff in your car that I've never heard in mine. I said, well, that may be answering Orlando's question. What makes them so expensive? It's that level of detail that you can get that out of those higher end speakers if that's really what you want. But by and large, a lot of people, they may not want that. Like Rob was saying, his wife is not that concerned about some of those details. She just wants it to sound good, I would imagine. And C3s and C2, you could do a great job with the C2 stuff. Anyway, sorry.
That's a good thing. If you've never heard C7s, you should take a listen to a pair if you can. because then you'll know why they are what they are.
So Greg Keys asked about a bigger 4-channel on the VXI line, like something more like the HD 600/4. Hey Manville, you seeing this? We have support for what we've wanted to do. So we're going to count on Greg to buy a couple hundred of those a month. Thank you, Greg, for signing up for that. So take my humor, though, Greg. We definitely love the idea of the more powerful multi-channel amplifier. The standard JL audio answer would be to use the 808 and bridge it to a 4-channel mode, but I know that's not really what you're looking for. You want to dedicate a 4-channel. We hear you, and hopefully we can do something like that for you in the future. So, what else we got?
10-channel is another big one that comes up, too.
Ooh, yeah, that is a good one. I'd love to see that.
Right?
Multi-channel like that. So what would you do with the power?
Freeway with bridging my mid-bass drivers and then still have rear speakers, right?
So what's the big number on that? 10-channel I get. So what's the breakdown on power?
Well, if you could do 10 by 100, that'd be nice, right?
Yeah, I think you need more on the bass, though, don't you? So
it's always easy to turn it down.
So what if we did? Again, this is just talking because this is what we can do right now, right?
Right.
So 10-channel amplifier, the 10 by 100 makes a lot of sense. But what are you going to couple it up with? I don't think the 1000's big enough, right? You'd need a 2000, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
It'd be the same chassis size, so.
Yeah, you make 2 of them that look, the same exact chassis size, exactly, just like you said. Well, that'd be a nice system.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. That'd be really awesome. Because you could use the 10-channel for, like, if you had, like in Rob's car, he's got some cool processing from OEM. And if you didn't want to break any of that, you just wanted to amp up each channel and keep it the way it was, you can use the 10-channel on some of those systems. So it's a 1-for-1, so you don't have to worry about retuning it necessarily, other than tonality and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, I wouldn't have to do 2 808s and a 1001 in my car if that was the case.
Oh, boo-hoo.
Speaking of rear fill, Greg asked, what's your opinion on rear fill? And as of now, my front components fill the rear just fine.
I don't know who this Phil guy is and why he's always in the back.
I was always against rear fill. If you did it, I would just run it off deck power. And when I started to get into higher quality systems, I stopped using it because I felt it was pulling my soundstage back a little. Now, I'm a huge fan of it when used with DSP, because like in my car, my rear fill on the VXI product, I was able to do left minus right, right minus left on my mixer, which means essentially it's hard left, hard right. There's no shared center content. So when you listen to the rears by themselves, it's kind of a weird echoey. There's no vocals because there's no center content. But when you do that, it widens the front stage. And when I turn my rear speakers on and off, my front stage gets wider and narrower. So when done right with DSP, you can actually really enhance the staging for your front speakers. So now I'm a fan of rear fill.
Yeah, I remember many years ago, I was still at Speaker Warehouse, and on Wednesday was my day to go get educated, and I go and I'd spend a couple of hours with Lucio, totally interrupting his day. But I remember talking to him about the use of rear fill to try to anchor, the front image, and he made a reference because he remains this way. He could recall information from whatever source many years ago, and he told me that he had read something about doing some weird wiring on the rear speakers that would allow it to give the illusion of coming from the front. And lo and behold, we went and did that, and I can't even remember what it was. It was left minus right or something like that, where we wound up anchoring that the center image even more by using the rear speakers. And we had a circuit where you could turn it on and off to see if it was actually helping. So we did blind listening to see if people could actually pick up on it. And what Rob just shared with us, absolutely, you could definitely pick up on it when you wire it in that way. Really cool. And it turns out a couple of years later, I found there was a reference in the book. It's called the New Stereo Sound Book, which at this point is probably 30 years old, so I guess it's not so new anymore. But I think that might have been where Lucio originally thought of that, or got that information from. So Renner's complimenting the C3s on 650s on the 304 original Slash amp, and he liked it, so he gets it. He knows. Glenn commented, C2 is properly tuned, quite insane. Ken's Cartoons in Pensacola, Florida's in the house. Hey guys, how you doing up there? What else we got going on? So, I'm not even going to try to say his name, but he's asking about tours at the Miramar factory. He's about 30 minutes away from us, and he wants to come on by. Yeah, we love doing a tour of the facility. You know, Rob, Kevin, and I, we get to go out into the field all the time, and we get to brag about the team back at the factory that does all the work, making the speakers and everything in the enclosures for us. But seeing it firsthand is something magical about it. And I know I get choked up whenever I go through there, seeing all these people. You know, Manville could tell even more stories. He's been there a little longer, but seeing us go from a small company to this much bigger company and still being so close with the team, and when you come and you see that, I think it's really special. Obviously, right now we're not doing tours, but when things go back to normal, we're looking forward to having you come by. Just get in touch with Eric or Carlos or Lee in tech, or myself, Rob or Kevin, and we'll find a way to get you through the factory without a doubt. Definitely want to do that.
It's really cool to see. I think that's the one thing I miss the most about not being in Florida anymore. Is when I was sat next to Steve when I was in Miramar, like if I would hit a roadblock for the day, or my mind just kind of shut down, or I was just like, it's Monday, I'm over today, and it's only 11. I would just walk out back, and like seeing all of these people put all of their pride and hard work into the products, it was extremely motivating, and it kind of, okay, that's it, ready to go back. And, it always pumped me up and got me moving, because there's a lot of people that work in a hot, warehouse, and some of the areas we can't do air conditioning in a fiberglass department or a large wood shop. And in the summer in Florida, man, it can be miserable. And they're out there busting their butts and, putting everything they have into the products that you guys love. And, it's inspiring, and for us, that in the office, we talk about it, and it just doesn't justify. You have to see it, because it really is something else to see. When I did my first tour, when I was interviewing with Steve, my mind was blown that something on that scale was happening here in the United States, and it's grown even more in the 5+ years that I've been with the company. So hopefully, if you guys are in the area, you can come down and check it out.
Yeah, I mean, even the 3 years that I've been there, it's changed quite a bit. I mean, we've changed buildings now, and our old offices are production and all. We're moving into production and all of that now. So it's cool. Even if you're gone for a month and you come back in, it's different, right? Like every time we come into the office, there's something different that's going on, Rob.
Yeah, I'm with you there. So, Cichlid told me how to say his name. Thank you for that. I'm a little embarrassed. So Manville jumped in on the
game.
Manville chimed in on the rack-mountable subwoofer amplifiers that we have. Yeah, those I think those get kind of lost in the shuffle there. But yeah, we do have something like that already, and we hear you.
Yeah. But they're part of the in-wall subwoofer system, so they're not sold as individual items, which is why he might not have seen them on there.
Right on. And let's see. Glenn wants to know if we're hiring. There's no way we would hire you. No, seriously, he's awesome. I'd love to have him on the team, but we need him doing what he's doing right now. He's a great retailer, a great installer. They do fantastic work up there. I don't want to take that away.
Sales would be very mad at you.
Yeah, without a doubt. Oh, thank you about the success and growth, man. It's we're trying. We're lucky. We make some really good stuff, and we're passionate about it. You guys like it and buy it, and it allows us to keep making really good stuff. So you guys keep it up, we'll keep it up. Promise. Components in an old Toyota with a car is very narrow. So trying to figure out what's the best way to answer that. Maybe I'll pause and let Carlos answer it.
What age do you have to be to get a job?
Contact Human Resources.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure 18.
I think so. Yeah, I think 18 would be the minimum, because machinery and chemicals are things that make it so younger guys can't be around that.
Right.
One question that came in is, what is our pro opinion on owning 2 original Mint/Series amps in 2020.
Oh,
Put them in a glass case with an alarm on them.
I don't know. You want to sell them? So those amps are special. I was around when those were being developed, and the team Manville spearheaded a lot of that. We had a lot of retailers chime in and give us some insight of what they were looking for. Now, my memory of that, and it may not be perfect, so Manville will yell at me later about this, but my memory was that when we originally targeted that product to go to the market, we did not want it to be like the top of the line. We wanted to be at the upper end for sure, higher quality, performance, and all that other stuff. And we designed it in such a way that we had features and functionality that made it kind of special. Different design criteria. We had 2 patents that we got, one on the mono amplifiers and one on the multi-channel amplifiers. And we came to market, but in the time, well, frankly, it takes us a little long to do some things, but in the time it took us to actually come to market, a lot of the higher-end products had disappeared. So when Slash actually hit, it was on the highest end of the market. Not the highest necessarily, but on the top end. And we were nervous because it's like we didn't want to price it out of the market. But the fact is that those amps were phenomenal. They sounded great. And just a brief aside, they were so small for the amount of power that they delivered. Now, anyone that's looking at one right now online, or whatever the case may be, that's saying, that ain't a small amplifier. But then it was. It really, really was. I remember showing it to people who said, there's no way that's a 500-watt mono amplifier. It's way too small. And then you hook it up and you play it and you show them. And it was. And then, a couple of years later, everything got smaller. So ours just magically was too big.
Now that thing's called a surfboard.
Yeah, exactly, right? But the 304, that was definitely my go-to. A 304 and a 501 was a magical system. It's the right power distribution. The 304 had fantastic sound quality, great power. Everything about it was just really, really awesome. So if you've got a couple of those mint condition early ones and you want to use them, you won't be disappointed. But those are special. I'll say I hold that in very, very high regard, and I think my coworkers would agree.
So one question that came in that I think we missed it up above, but he asked if we had seen it. Jay was asking if he would notice much difference in sound by going with VXIs over XD and Tweak. I think so. I feel there's been a little bit of misconception about VXI just being an XD-V2 and a Tweak put together because the power configurations are the same, 8x75, 1000 by 5, but really they're 2 completely different amplifiers. So even though it may look on paper, we just combine 2 products, they're totally different. VXI is a next generation ground up amplifier designed by our team in Phoenix, Arizona, most modern FETs, other components, and the big aspect of it is the DSP. The Tweak uses a really good DSP chip. The VXI DSP chip is next level. On top of being more powerful, it manages the amplifier, and everything happens in the digital domain, which that alone is going to provide you with some better sonic performance. But additionally, you have a little more flexibility. Being that the chip is stronger on VXI, we can kind of fine-tune our signal delay a little more. There's more adjustments that you can make when it comes to other delay aspects. And you do have more expensive components in there as well, being it is a more expensive amplifier, which again will also help with your audio performance. But also with the new XD2 switching technology, it's extremely more efficient. It allows it to be smaller, easier to hide and work with, and a little friendlier on your charging system. And a lot of newer cars, these charging systems are becoming more delicate. They limit the amount of current that leaves the alternator. Yeah. So anything that could play nicely with those vehicles is always a plus in my book. So I think you would see a difference.
And for me, on the install side of things, man, just to eliminate a separate box is a big deal too, right? So you're getting rid of extra cables, extra points of grounding, all of that, which is...
Plus extra level setting. For the standalone DSP, you got to set input levels on that and output levels before you even get to the amplifiers level. So with VXI, it's further simplified.
I would agree with all that.
Orlando's asking if the VXI hub is mandatory for 2 amps or more. I would say the only time you would need the VXI hub is if you're using 2 or more full-range amplifiers. If you're using just a full-range monoblock, you can use the pre-out, so you don't need the hub. But if you have 2 full-range amps, maybe two 5 channels like Eric Cole has in his Civic. Then you would need the hub because you have more than 2 channels.
And you need to
pre-out
change
that you need to
presets.
control.
If you don't need to change presets, you may not need to.
Right.
No, but if you need volume control or sub control on multiple amps, you would want to use the hub if it's not just a full range of mono block.
But like my personal system's an 808 with a 1001, and I do not need a hub for that. So, like you said, it doesn't. If you have a full range in a mono, you're fine. It's if you did maybe an 808 and a 1005 or like 2 1005s. It just depends on what you're doing on that side of things. But just 2 amps, no, but not necessarily. As long as you don't have presets, again, you can run as many as you want.
You've got the pre-outs and everything. So Cartronics is in the house here. I see them up there. They had a question, or actually a couple of comments of what they wanted to see. They said they want a dual W3 ported enclosure. We used to have one of those. It was one of my favorites. The 10-inch one. I think that thing was awesome. I'd like to see that come back again too. So I hear you. Wideband 3-inch. That's a second +1 on that there. So 6x9 mid bass. Oh wow, 6x9 mid bass. So years ago, we were expanding the IB lineup. We had an 8 IB4. We did a 10 and a 12 IB4 as well for just normal installations. And we introduced a 6x9 IB4. And I saw it with my own eyes. I actually held it in my hands. The sample that we used at CES that year. And it never came out. And I was so disappointed. And a lot of it has to do with our engineers' like fanatic passion towards making it right. And there's certain things that they just couldn't get right for the 6x9 to do what they wanted. We talked about it earlier when the chat first started up for 6x9 in general. So a dedicated mid bass. I'd say watch this space because there's been a lot of conversation lately, and let's see what happens over the next couple of months with this whole weirdness that we're going through now. And when we get back at the full speed ahead stuff, we'll definitely bring that up with the engineers. He's asking for a 1.5 foot RCA. I thought we had one of those. It happens to be white for the marine stuff, but I think you're looking for something more like mobile friendly in terms of the color scheme. That has come up, so we'll mention that. Ooh, I should let Manville answer the 31 band tweak with graphic/parametric and 18 dB adjustments. So graphic, I could see that, but parametric, we gotta have a chat, man. So the 18 dB worth of adjustment, that I'm with you too. So let's we'll have a chat both ways on that.
There's a good video on our YouTube channel of Manville showing how to use the 10-band parametric EQ.
That is
and once you kind of learn how to play with the Q and move the center frequency, you'll see it's very, very powerful. And I'd say most situations, more than enough for what you need.
And he's looking for an 8W7 HO enclosure. That could be pretty fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, that could be fun. And a VXI, but without the I. A VX mono amp without the DSP. Yep, that's... I'd like to see that too. There's many, many, many reasons to do that. In fact, if you look at the marine versions, we've kind of done that. So that we're thinking along the same lines. Let's see what we can do about getting rid of the ones that currently have the eyes in there, and let's see what we can do. So.
You know what's nice, though, Steve, about having the DSP in the sub-amp? Is that you can take your signal directly from your source unit into that sub-amp,
that's
and
true.
then into your multi-channel amp, and then you can use the preamp output of your sub-amp as a global EQ for the rest of the system.
It's a really good idea.
It's really nice for those little bit of minor tweaks that you want to make at the end there.
Yeah, the system EQ, like you just said, Kevin, I think is a really good use for the extra DSP that the sub-amps hold. So yeah, maybe there's a video on that sometime in the future, huh?
That is what Kevin said. It really is nice. That's how my car is set up for my driver preset. I go digitally from my iPhone into my mono VXI, and then the digital output of that goes to the VXI hub, which then goes to my two 808s. So any salt and pepper, if you will, on the EQ leaving the mono block is shared to the two 808s. So each of my 808s essentially has a speaker-specific equalizer, and then the output of my mono block is a global EQ because it's shared to both of my 808s and then its output channels as well, which was pretty cool and extra flexibility. So
Good stuff. Steve Moss, hurry back to the UK. Yeah, definitely want to get back over there, man. Miss you guys. Frank is asking for a subwoofer more powerful than the W7. I got to ask you a question, Frank. What would you like it to W7? That's the easy answer, right? What exactly are you looking for? More output? Better sound? Give us a little bit of guidance on what really matters to you, because, you know, we're always open for suggestions on how we can make product better and more what our customers are looking for. We're a bit biased, but we think the W7 is pretty darn good. But yeah, so let us know what specifics you're looking for, and, you know, let's see what we can do. No promises other than we'll look.
So one question that came up earlier, and I'll let you answer this, Steve, because I know you were around for the development of it.
Uh-oh.
But on the 13W7, why the coil configuration?
We got to go in the Wayback Machine a little bit there. Back at that time, when we were developing that, the amplifiers that were available to us, there was, I'm not sure exactly how to say this, but some of the bigger amplifiers were only about 1,000 watts, and the impedance range that they were optimized at were, you know, usually like 1.5 to 4 ohms. You sound familiar? So 1 to 4 ohms, or whatever the case may be. So what we wanted at the time was to be able to have a customer be able to power this thing up and get lots of performance out of it, and using a single coil wasn't really going to give us a lot of options in terms of amplifiers. So we went with the dual coil design and split it basically. So it's still a 3 ohm coil, it's just split with 2 connection points. And you could use some of those larger amplifiers at 1.5 ohms, which was only a little bit higher than the 1 ohm loads that some of them were rated for. So we could actually power it up. Now there's another benefit to that. The lead wires themselves, they couldn't handle really that amount of power through it. They were just, a normal side lead wire can only handle so much current to go through it. It's a certain size wire. So since we actually had 4 conductors on each one of the terminals, we could actually get more current and get into the coil without any issues. So that's a couple of the reasons that we did. Now the question that's usually asked is, why the weird impedance? Well, that's the easy answer for us is always, well, that's because Lou said it was right. And it's not a great answer to go to the market with, unfortunately, but that is pretty much what it came down to. And it had a lot to do with what's known as the motor strength of the speaker, where there's a relationship between the energy that the coil creates and the motor structure for the speaker, as well as the moving mass, the cone, and all the moving assemblies that go with it. And the engineers are very focused on dialing it in so they get just the right amount of motor force to deliver the performance we're looking for. And by changing the impedance of the coil and change the way the windings were done, change the materials of the windings themselves, and all of those factors came into play to give us the strength that we were looking for. You know, and you know, we're not afraid to be weird. We've been weird for many, many years, and the 3 ohm actually is only slightly more weird than normal for us. So hopefully that answers it.
I mean, back then, I don't even think were 2 ohm stable mono blocks really a thing? Because I remember when I got into the business in like 2004, we were just starting to see 2 ohm stable mono block amps. Right? Was that also kind of part of the consideration?
Yeah, it's what was available at the time, and there were some amplifiers that were optimized at very, very low impedances. They were rare and intended to be really expensive. So
I was going to say there's a few back there that people were using for competition. Just, you know, they're rated at like 50 watts at 8 ohm or whatever, 4 ohm.
Right. So they were
expensive.
But, you know, honestly, with the 13W7, expense wasn't really a concern. It was getting the power, right? Get the power to the beast and let it do its job. So even when we came out with ours, we always would try to do 2 amplifiers on each one of those for just those reasons, and to compensate them to the both, and off you go. But in today's eyes, if you look at it in today's marketplace with so many different amplifiers available and so many other options, it doesn't seem to make as much sense. But you've got to remember the design criteria for the W7s. Yes, it's a number of years old, but it also took us a number of years to come up with all the designs for that. The number of patents was, you know, pretty impressive for the time. So, checking the chat here for some more.
Jason brought up the old HCCA amplifiers.
Yep.
That's actually where my head was at too, Jason.
Yep. Dylan was asking about the original the original Slash amplifiers. Yes, they were Class AB. In fact, they still are Class AB. We still have those things. I don't think we pulled them off the price sheet or off the website at this point. But yeah, it's a really special version of it too. Bruce McMillan, BMAC, is the guy that came up with the absolute symmetry, which is the patent that we have for those Class AB amplifiers back then. And I would contend that the absolute symmetry is why they sound so good. Now, Class AB is not as common as it used to be because Class D has done so well and the performance is really accelerated at this point in the game. But people still love those Class ABs, and we still got it.
Frank's asking, he's got 3 8-inch JLZR speakers. What type of amp do you guys recommend? Frank, I'd probably, actually Carlos is answering it right now.
Got it, okay.
We'll let him go. I was just going to ask for a little more information on how you were going to be using them and the application and stuff, but Carlos got you taken care of.
Yeah, I'd say being that those are dedicated mid-bass drivers, if they're in the door, make sure everything is completely soundproof with a Dynamat or HushMat type material. Seal off the doors with acrylic inserts. And there's actually an article on our help center, how to improve your mid-bass response. Follow those steps, because even though it's a mid-bass driver, if you have good power on it, the door is going to be the weakest link. So make sure it's properly mounted, the door's sealed off. Essentially make it into an enclosure, and you'll get some phenomenal mid-bass out of those guys.
No doubt.
I wish I had the room to do them in my car, or I would have done those in my doors, but I just didn't have enough depth with the window.
Yeah, the 3 threw me off on the mid basses, and maybe he's got a 3-door car that he's putting together or something. There.
8-inch center channel mid bass.
And maybe he's looking for an 8-inch center channel.
There you go. So Cichlin's asking for a W7 like the originals instead of black. So maybe we'll do an anniversary edition of the anniversary edition and go back to the original one.
AEV2.
I did like the original look too. I think the black is really tough looking, especially if you're doing like some type of window into the box. But I was always a bit partial to the original one. So,
there was a question earlier I saw about if we would do multiple pre-outs on VXI as we do with the MDI product. I don't think that can be done, being the MDI doesn't do high-res processing like VXI. And by opening up that horsepower on the chip, that's what allows us to do the extra pre-outs on the MDI side of things. But I don't know in the car if you would really need multiple pre-outs.
I mean, if we wanted to do
it. Side. It's not like a boat where you might have 3, 4, 5 amplifiers.
Well, it makes a lot of sense for the zones on a boat.
And the digital routing to split your signal.
Yeah, so for a boat with the zones, like Rob's saying, I think that makes sense. In a car, though, I mean, there's just chatting here, right? We're not making any promises or anything, but if you took one of the bigger multi-channels, like an 8-channel amplifier, and you scaled it back to a 4-channel amplifier and use the same processor, you have 4 more channels of DSP processing, and you could put another 2 sets of preamp outputs on that if we really wanted to. But I think it goes back to what Rob was saying. Is that something that we really need to do? The concept of VXI was that you buy enough DSP to do your system, and if you want more channels, add more channels, right? And you send the preamp out to the next one, and you have all the DSP and channels you need.
Well, also, VXI, you have an optical output that you could use and an analog output that you could use separate from one another, too. So if your secondary amplifier has an optical input on it, then you could utilize the optical output on there and have 2 separate pre-outs.
Right on. Question that Jason asked was about the 1201 V3. He wants to know when the power output kind of runs out. He's citing that as 500/1 V2 puts out more than 500 watts. You caught that, huh? In general, we seek to at least make our power rating, but most of the time, with I think very rare exception, you could expect to see at least 10% more than what we publicize, and we do that on purpose. We want to make sure you guys are always getting the performance. So if some things shift or change a little bit, we want to make sure you're always getting what you paid for or expect from us. I'd be curious to see it on a dyno too. Now remember, those are regulated amplifiers, so juicing up the charging system is not necessarily going to get you more power, but it could stabilize your power. That's for sure.
Right.
Orlando's asking about 2 gauge versus 0 gauge. Yeah, that's 2 gauge is a weird size. It's of course we offer a 2 gauge wire. There are others that were offering 2 gauge. I don't know if they're still doing that. It is kind of a nice little in-betweener going from a 4 gauge and into a 1/0. That 2 gauge kind of fits right in that little gap there, and it covers a lot of systems. So your 100 amp or so system, 2 gauge is actually a pretty good choice. So that's why we did it. We trying to find that little soft spot in the middle there to give you guys additional options.
It's a lot easier to run than 1/0.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Glenn says he dynoed an RD1501 at 0.9 ohm.
Woo.
Made 1980 watts.
Yeah, we don't want to tell too many people about that.
Yeah,
So-
we want to keep it stable, keep it playing. So it's,
Do you guys remember when I had the prototype of that thing in our office?
oh yeah, the surfboard circuit board.
Yeah,
Right,
so it's a little.
That thing was scary. I feel like that could electrocute somebody.
Well, that's the thing. It's like, a lot of the guys that don't get to see some of that stuff, let me share with you that our engineers, when they develop that over in Phoenix, they need people to test it. And of course, they have their test bench, which is nice, but it's not real world, right? So they want to make sure it's going to do what they want in real world. So our engineer, he sent it over to us and said, here, could you guys check this? So I take it out of the packaging that he sends it in, and it's just a circuit board. It's got some heat sinking, like a metal slug on one end of it where everything's mounted to it, but there is no chassis. There's nothing. I was like, what the hell am I going to do with this thing? I'm not putting that in my car. I'm afraid of it. It was scary looking, But, we did hook it up on the bench, and, I did bring it out to the car to see how it did. But I wouldn't want to drive around with that thing, that's for sure. But I remember he was kind of smiling and nodding when we saw it on the bench. And, we were measuring it too, and it was definitely more than what we had said it was. And I think we actually dialed back a little bit. Now, this sounds funny, but, to make more power is not really that hard. But it is hard to make it reliably. And something that's often overlooked is the traces that are on the circuit board. They're fairly thin if you think about it. It's sort of like paint on a board, so it's not much thicker than that. So to make the traces wide enough to handle the current that's required for some of that higher power, you need really wide traces. And getting room on a circuit board to allow for wide traces to pass that kind of current, it's a bit of a challenge. To make sure it's noise free and everything's routed clean and not the whole line. It's not that easy. And I remember, when we started building some of the bigger amplifiers, the challenges that we had to overcome. And we would often, give the engineers kind of a hard time. It's like, well, brand XYZ's got a 2,000 watt amplifier. And the comment was always like, but does it do it reliably in a car? And it's like, we don't know. We don't know how reliable it is. We don't get to see that stuff, But they always err on the side of caution. So if we can't do it with reliability and the concern towards the quality, we'll just scale it back.
Right.
800 watts out of a 601.
Ooh. You mean these 1,200 watt amplifiers or 12,000 watt amplifiers for $50 aren't good?
Don't forget the built-in alarm that they come with.
I remember when I was in retail, I had a customer come in one time with an 8,000 watt amp that weighed about as much as my iPhone. So we opened it up, and I think the board was about this big, and there's a bunch of lead weights glued to the chassis.
That's funny.
Some of that stuff is, I get a kick out of it.
Yeah, no doubt. It's funny. It's what I don't like about products like that is obviously we can have a chuckle about it, but most of the people watching right now probably know better. They're not going to fall for anything like that. But someone from the outside, let's say, someone that doesn't know a lot about audio, that they see that product and it's a 2,000 watt amplifier for $150, and then we come out with our 600 watt amplifier that's more than that, by a long shot, and they don't know. I mean, how do they know?
Yeah.
And,
Right.
if they spend the money on the cheaper product, they get a really bad audio experience, and then they don't want to spend it again, and they've lost an opportunity to see what the fun is really all about.
Yep.
I get upset
agree.
over that.
It's where our job as trainers and educators comes in.
Yeah, no doubt. And the retailers need to step up on that too, to have the conversation and in fact do a demonstration. And so I know most of us, when we're in the business and we get like any accommodation special pricing that we may get, right? We always want the C7 stuff, and we want the VXI amplifiers and the W7 subwoofers. And I always felt that that's the wrong thing to do, because as a salesperson, when I go to show my customers my car, I'm showing them something that they maybe can't afford. I'd much rather do something more midline or even at the entry level, or like Rob was saying earlier, you dial in a C2 or even a C1 and make that thing sound fantastic, and show a customer, hey, you know what? Here's a basic 600 watt amplifier, whatever the case is, a multi-channel amplifier, that you can dial in and make this thing sound fantastic. You don't need thousands of watts. You don't need the flagship product. We can make your car sound fantastic with just a little bit. And if they say, well, I want more than that, no problem. We can definitely do more. That's easy. More is easy. But, if you scare them with thousands and thousands of dollars worth of gear, that's intimidating.
Yeah.
Jay's asking about the 808 and 601 for the Marine product. Is it the same as the VXIs? And can you use the regular hub? So this is a multi-layer question. So the core technology on the Marine product is very, very similar to the VXI. Rob earlier mentioned that there are some changes in the sampling rate for the audio stream, and that's intended by design to allow the Marine to have additional delay capabilities and processing for the zone control. But when it comes to the actual amplifier itself, the core is the same. It's still using the NXT2 technology that we have on there, absolutely. The question about the hub, we're using the same protocol, so technically you can interchange the hubs with any one of the products. So VXI and MVI can live on the same hub, either the MVI hub or the VXI hub. You like the white stuff, I don't blame you, it looks pretty tough. It's bigger though. And it doesn't have the optical router, so if you want to use optical, stick with the VXI hub. Jason makes the point, a lot of people don't understand you get what you pay for. Yeah, that's true. And Rob just mentioned it a moment ago, job security for the three of us, right? We get to keep educating, and I'm definitely down for that. Manville makes fun of us as we're trying to save the world from bad sound. Yes, one person at a time. Jason's appreciative that he does install and doesn't have to deal with customers. Yep.
See, I liked the sales aspect, because there was something cool to me about asking questions, finding out what they wanted, figuring out the right product for them, and there's always a rewarding feeling when you give. For me, when I was in retail, the customer comes in, you find out what they've had, what they like, you put them into the right system, and then giving them their keys and doing that initial demo and seeing the smile on their face and the wow factor, stuff like that really does make me miss the sales side of retail at times.
Yeah, I go for that too. I get it, because I could never install. I was never good at it. But I always like the challenge of coming up with a system that would just blow my customer's mind. And I would usually do the whole under promise over deliver thing, right? Where I make certain promises of what they could expect, and when they got in and fired it up for the first time, that smile that Rob just described that motivated me for sure. Now, I'm sure Rob will agree that the only way a salesman could ever get to that point is by someone that could do a proper install.
Absolutely.
So I could sell anything, because I know the ins and outs of the technical side of it. I could put it all together in my brain and lay it out all on paper. But if I don't have someone in the back that can make all that magic happen, it ain't worth it. Customer's not going to smile or not going to have that great experience. So it's a front of house, back of house thing, and if they're not in sync, no good. Cichlid saying there's only one shop in town that sells JL Audio, although they don't sell less expensive other products. So thank you. Yeah, we're trying to make as much stuff in our facility in Florida as we possibly can. Obviously, price points become an issue. But yeah, we're proud of what we're putting together down there. It's great to see it come to the point where it is now, and expect bigger things as we grow in the future, for sure.
All right.
What are you guys thinking? It's lunchtime? I guess it's past lunchtime.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I enjoyed this a lot. I'm
This
glad
was fun.
everybody was able to make it on. Everybody that came on, I appreciate the comments and the good questions. And
Yeah, it's good. I like this. This was fun. Nice break from the whole situation, right?
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Good stuff. So we'll keep this open for a little bit just to see if any other questions come through. And if not, we'll kill this in just a couple of minutes. Thank you, everybody. Thanks for watching and being a part of it.
I will admit, this was a lot of fun.
Yeah, no doubt. I enjoyed it. So,
It got me out of my... I'm glad that we did this and you guys all came to watch and ask questions. It got me out of my house with my sick 3-year-old little girl. So I feel bad for my wife right now, but this was a welcome break from a toddler not feeling all that great.
yeah, for me, I like it because, normally we're in front of a group of people and we got the shirts on and we're all proper and prim, just trying to represent. But it's casual. This is really just to hang out and have some fun with our customers a little bit, I like it.
Yeah, no, it was good.
I liked it a lot.
We are human beings.
We are, believe it or not. Definitely are. So. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and kill the cameras here, boys.
All right, see you guys.
Alrighty, everybody enjoy the rest of your day. Have a good weekend.
Take care, everyone.